So it is over. The Bad Batch has finished, and we had to say goodbye. Saying goodbye is difficult. I mean, they're coming back for season 2, but like, it's still difficult. You can't take this away from me. What an incredible series The Bad Batch has been. What a masterpiece of animation, of storytelling, of so many amazing talents being put in the same room to make one show that span like how many episodes and how many weeks? I'm gonna load up Disney Plus to see, because it feels weird saying goodbye to this show, because this show personally for me started midway through my last project in college. It was May 4th and we were like celebrating and we were like filming stuff. We were on set filming, and it ended literally days after me finishing college, like completely, and like saying goodbye to people that I'm never gonna see again. And yeah, the 16 weeks it was, and it's just sort of like the end of this show sort of just ends sort of a period in my life, and it's sort of just quite emotional. Saying goodbye is quite hard. But to put all that aside, this show was excellent. 16 episodes of, some we had our ups and downs. Some were filler, some weren't. Some were excellent, like the first episode and the second episode, this last episode, and the few before that. It was just such a good show. And this ending, I think, was literal perfection. I thought it was great. I thought it did things that go against sort of your typical stereotypical storytelling conventions, which I will touch on later, and you all know if you've watched any of my reviews before, I love when they do that. I have a notebook here full of just sort of ramblings, and I'm just going to go through it. This, if you're new here, this is my podcast. If I had a podcast, nobody wants to do a podcast with me, so this is just me talking on my own. Let's just start off with, like, this is going to be talking about the finale, but all of these things could probably be applied to the rest of the show. The cinematography and framing of this show, it was insane. For an animation is known to be more random and to be more sort of just a wide sort of like camera angle, but this was like, although I haven't watched much like anime, and I'm sure that's like masterfully created, but the framing of this show was almost on like Spielberg levels of storytelling. What's the word I'm looking for? But like, yeah, how it's framed, how people are placed in the scene, how the camera is moving and things is super great, especially in this last episode. You will notice that the camera is moving from right to left most of the time, unlike other episodes where it's moving from left to right. Moving left to right is sort of normal. It's how we read. We feel like that's a normal way of perceiving things. But if it's moving from right to left, we feel a little bit more off-put, and things feel a little bit more unstable and weird. So it's a great way of just telling a story through camera work, and I love it, and whoever came up with that is great. Speaking of like shots and like the locations, they've done a really good job at like transferring the imagery and music and things, transitioning that into the originals from like the Clone Wars and prequels. You definitely, the music in especially like the last 2 episodes of this show, they definitely feel like that Rogue One Michael Giacchino sound. I love it. It's so good that like the like Imperial March kind of sort of theme is excellent. I just looked at my thing. I have lit my background like Hauser today, because I miss him. He wasn't in this last episode, but we will see him again at some point. Give him his own show, why not? Yeah, also the tunnels in Camino remind me of that final mission in Jedi Fallen Order. Coincidence? Maybe, but like maybe it's like a way of subconsciously telling us that we're in a new era of Star Wars. It's just kind of cool, I thought. Okay, next up, they escaped Camino in possibly the pods that they were born in. How like metaphorical and like It rhymes. It's Star Wars. Of course it rhymes, as George Lucas would say. Yeah, they escaped Camino, the place they were born, in the pods that they were born, into a new life, into a new world. That's kind of cool and sort of just poetic, and I quite like that. It was also just kind of like a cool set piece that we haven't seen before, which is just it. Tech, well done, Tech. You came up with a good plan there. Let's get to. I don't know if I want to get into the big spoiler, like the big part of the ending. Let's do an overview. So, a lot of people on Twitter and stuff were sort of like a bit annoyed that like this wasn't a big finale. It wasn't like big explosions and a big set piece. And there wasn't like a huge cameo like Ahsoka turning up, or there wasn't even Rex or Hauser. It was just the Bad Batch. And some people were annoyed, but I absolutely love that, because the Star Wars community complain about like having things like Rebels rely on having big characters come in to save the show. Like, we're only watching it because we want to see these cameos, but they didn't have that in this last episode. They relied on the Bad Batch and the Bad Batch alone, which is great, and I love that. Like, we didn't need to have Rex show up, really, as much as I would love to see that. But, like, it was nice just to have the original members and Omega now. I absolutely love Omega. I think Michelle Ang portraying Omega did an excellent job. I really love the character. I think she gives a new perspective to Star Wars. Like, she's young, she's new, she's fresh and wet behind the ears, and she just gives a new perspective on everything, unlike everyone else in Star Wars who's just like a gruff, old, and like depressed skeleton. Sounds sort of like me, but but yes, it's just so nice having that new perspective on a character, and I think Omega adds a lot to it, especially in this finale. It wasn't a huge finale, but it was a great episode, and I loved it. Let's get into that ending spoiler, because people were getting annoyed. I saw that they were like, why did they leave Crosshair behind again? It's like, but if you look at it from a narrative point of view and to what we're used to, if he would have got on that ship, it would have been a happy ever after, and it would have been exactly the same as everything we had seen before. The bad guy turns and gets back on the ship, and they all live happily ever after. But this time they said, no, Crosshair is going to still be the villain. He's probably going to be in season 2. We're going to see more of that. So yeah, don't get worried about it. We're gonna see Crosshair come back at some point, maybe. But for this finale, we did not have the amazing happy ever after, the grass is greener on the other side ending. Instead, we have something that goes against conventions narratively. We have something that's new. We're moving past a period in like movies and narratives where it's like, the new thing is not to have happy endings, it's to have sort of like sadder endings. That's a way of putting it. And I'm really excited to see that, because it's new, it's fresh, and I'm sure one day when we're all like 60 years old, they'll return to that narrative of happy ever afters. But for now, it's a new trend, and I'm liking it. And if we're going to talk about voice acting, Bradley Baker did an absolute... He smashed it out of the park in this show. He voiced every clone, pretty much, apart from Omega. And all of them have, like, different tones. We like each of them individually. Tech, especially for me. Gotta love Tech. They all have different personalities. They all sound slightly similar, but they're also very different. And that's just incredible that one person can create all those voices, create all of those identities, and we love all of them. So well done, D. Bradley Baker. Thank you for being our Star Wars dad. There's a plane outside. Can you... Okay, it's gone. Thank you. No, it's back. Was it like circling my house? I mean, that's all I got written down in my notebook. And I just really... Oh, the score. Didn't even talk about the score. The score was amazing. And it sort of links into the Mandalorian score by Ludwig. yeah, it was so good. It's sort of that new not hip hop, but it's sort of like, it adds like that sort of like modern take on Star Wars music, because John Williams does the classical orchestral music, and now we're getting this sort of like digital sounding stuff, which is great, and I love it. Which actually reminds me to talk about, whilst I was grabbing all the sort of trailers and stuff to put into this video's edit, the trailers are just like insanely good. Like, some of them I haven't watched, and they're just really funny and like badass. Like, it's doesn't feel like a Star Wars movie, Star Wars series when you watch these trailers. They're just like super good. Yeah, check out like the mid-season trailer for the Bad Batch. You'll love it. It's great. So I feel like that might be all I have. I'm really sorry this was rambly. You can just tell that I just was really excited about this, and also just a bit sad. And I feel like sometimes you just gotta talk without a script sometimes. Especially as those videos don't do that well. So if I could just talk directly to camera, maybe it's just a little bit more real and stuff. Yeah. So thank you very much for watching. I really hoped you enjoyed the Bad Batch. Visions is coming out soon. That's exciting. We got Marvel What If. The first episode of that was insane. Yes, thank you very much for watching. Enjoyed the Bad Batch. Definitely going to be rewatching that at some point. And maybe I'll do a little bit more of a deep dive. I'm not sure. But yes, thank you very much for watching. And can you do me one more thing apart from liking and subscribing, because that really helps out. Can you have a great day? Thank you.